So we have to cut this pine cone into a flower shape. And let me just say that cutting a pine cone is not easy, especially I watched a couple tutorials and I saw a lot of people using this to try to cut the pine cone into, 2 or 3 different places. And I tried that and it was really killing my hands and it was taking a very long time. So I'm just gonna get the big guns out and I'm gonna use some loppers, and that makes things so much easier. And I don't know if you have loppers, but if you do, this will simplify the cutting process by like 20 times. So you kind of want to find a good spot where like you can use the top as a flower, the middle as a flower, and the back as a flower, especially for such a big cone like this. If you have a smaller one, you might want to be just cutting it right in half. And keep in mind that sometimes it will fully crush your pine cone and make some of the pieces unusable, but this is still a great usable piece. It could be a smaller flower. And so I'm going to cut this one more time because it's pretty big right now. And try to see if I can use the middle or the back as a flower. Kind of have to find a good spot. And sometimes you have to cut it twice, especially for a big one like this. So here you go. This is perfect for a flower right here. So we've got 2 pieces already. And this middle piece actually is pretty big. I could even cut this one more time and see if I can use this. You don't have to use too much brute strength in this. You really just have to hold your loppers steady and put some body weight in it, and it chops it right up. And then you could go back and kind of clean this up. This piece is probably too thin to use, but I could definitely use this one. So I've got 3 pieces out of this. If you don't want to be screwing around with loppers or you don't have any paint, you can also make flowers in various ways, paper, fabric. These roses I made with some felt, and I do have a video tutorial on how to make this, so I will make sure to put the link to that video tutorial in the description section of this video. You just scroll down and you might have to click more and click on the video link in the description section. So I'm here at one of my olive trees, and I'm gonna cut out some of the branches. I'm probably gonna cut out around 10 to 15 of these. And what I wanna do is I kinda want to get a branch that's pretty long. And this one's a little bit shorter, but I just wanted to show you, I will look for some longer ones. And I wanna make sure that it is flexible and that I can bend it easily. So I have cut about 10 to 15 branches, and I'm gonna take these to my driveway and just hose them down. You don't have to do that, but I just wanted to get rid of any bugs or spider webs that might be in these. And I'm just gonna lay them in the sun and allow them to dry, and I'll just move on to the next part of my wreath and come back to these once they're dry. What you're going to do when your pine cones are dry, and you can tell that they're dry because they look a little different when they're wet. When you get them wet, these scales kind of suck up and go in towards the middle, and then once they dry out, they extend back out and they kind of look like this, like a flower shape again. So you might want to just get rid of any loose scales here, and we're just going to start painting them. So I'm going to go straight for a pink. I'm trying to keep it spring colors. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my paint, and this is acrylic paint, and I'm going to just put it directly right on my pine cone. And I'm going to put a good amount because it takes a decent amount of paint to paint this. So, and I'm just using a medium-sized brush, and I'm going to brush each petal, and I'm going to leave the middle blank because I'm going to paint that a different color. So you just want to paint each and every single one of these scales, even the ones down here. And you don't have to paint all the way in, just as long as you cover it for the most part. So when you get towards the end here, you kind of have to hold it in the middle and at the back so you're not touching the paint. So you can get that last petal. So what I'm going to do now is I want a little white right in the middle of these petals. So I'm going to put a little white on my palette, and this is just a baking sheet. And I'm going to take that white, and I'm just going to go touch the middle parts of these petals just a little bit. And you'll notice that it just changes up the color a little bit right in the middle. Rinse my brush, and then I'm going to use yellow right in the middle. Make sure to dry off your brush after you rinse it. So just paint the middle, just a little more paint. And since I don't have any other color on this brush, I'm going to put a little bit just directly on my brush. So I'm just working on the last flower here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've got 7 of them, and I think that's going to be plenty. I might have an extra. Basically want to put them on a wreath and have them equally spread out, and I think that's going to be more than enough. Okay, great. So once you're done with that, you want to make sure to allow these to dry. This is acrylic paint, so it dries really quickly. I think once we put our wreath together, these should be dry by then. So I'm starting off with 8 of these branches. It really just depends on the size of the wreath you want. So you kind of just have to measure depending on how thick your branch is, and also whether you want to trim these leaves or not. I'm gonna leave the leaves on. I've made a wreath from this before, and the leaves take a very long time to turn brown, so I think it's gonna look nice with the leaves on. So I'm taking some twine and I'm just going to tie the end here, and you really can use anything. You can use a rubber band, you can use some fishing line, some wire, yarn, anything to tie this in place. So I'm going to try to tie it pretty tight here. Trim the end off. So I'm going to just start wrapping this around the branches. And if you don't have enough string or wire, you can just tie in sections versus wrapping it around. But the wrapping will keep some of these smaller branches down. And as you wrap this, you can always add more branches if you feel like one area is a little bit thin. You can add a branch there. Right now this seems to be the thickest area. What's great is if you decide to trim the leaves, your wreath will last so much longer. You can just reuse it all the time. I think what I can do is later, if I want to trim these leaves off, I will. And I don't want to wrap all the leaves down. I want to leave some of them sticking out. So as I get to the end here, it definitely is getting a little bit thinner. So I think what I'll do is I'll add a couple small branches here. I'm just gonna wrap it around once extra right at this spot. Okay, and so I'm getting towards the end here. Some of them, you can tell this is really thinning out. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. And I'm just gonna tie this here. So now that I've got this bound up, I'm gonna just start bending at this, and you kind of have to bend a little harder in this area because the branches might be a little thicker, and you just want to bend it into that circular shape and decide how big you really want your wreath to be. And I'm thinking that is a really good size right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to cut one more piece of twine here and just tie it a couple times here to make sure it's going to stay. And then it's up to you if you want to work these in. You can either work these in and tie these around this way. I'm just going to trim them off. So I've started my glue gun, just plug that in, and I'm kind of just taking my pine cone flowers and just placing them and just trying to figure out where these are going to look nice. I kind of want them all evenly spaced. I've seen a lot of wreaths that also have, like, you know, one focal point where all the flowers are kind of just bunched together at the bottom right. That might look really nice too. So it's totally up to you. You gotta think about how you want it. I'm trying to spread these out evenly because some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. And so I'm probably gonna go with this. And I'm using this to cover the area where I bind it at the end. And I'm just gonna glue that right on there with my glue gun. So you need to use a good amount of glue to make it stay. Just hold it there for a few seconds. So I'll glue this one next. You can also add a bow. I'm just going to keep it these flowers, but you can always add some ribbon or a bow to this. And you also want to think about how this is going to sit, where it's going to be touching the wreath. So I want to make sure to put some glue right in the middle here and push down on it this way. So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. Have a great week.